From the glory days of the NWA to the birth of the WWF's family entertainment era to the Monday Night Wars and the rise of AEW, this is Wayback Wrestling Mania, where we cover everything in the professional wrestling world with your hosts, Adam and the Emerald Enthusiast.
Welcome to another episode of Wayback Wrestling Mania. As always, I'm your host, Adam, and with me, as always, is the wise man of our show. If I'm the tribal chief of this podcast network, then the wise man of our network, the Emerald Enthusiast himself, Donnie. Donnie, how's it going?
Hey, what's up, wrestling fans? It's a man whose rig runs on fanboy energy. It is the Emerald Enthusiast, and I acknowledge you, my tribal chief.
Thank you. And I should start every wrestling podcast with acknowledge me so that the 10 people that listen to this show can throw tomatoes at their screens or whatever they're gonna do. But it's right. It's finger up. And not the middle one, damn it, because if I catch any of you viewers and listeners putting the middle finger up, you're gonna have hell to pay. And we're back doing another wrestling installment because we kind of did a preview of the Royal Rumble and WrestleMania, and now we're going to review and discuss the Royal Rumble 2023 edition. And it's interesting, Donnie, that before we actually get into the meat and potatoes of the show, I was watching Young Rock last night, the latest episode.
Right.
And he was telling a story about Pat Patterson.
Right.
And how Pat Patterson was the one who came up with the idea of the Royal Rumble. And so it was just cool timing. A week after the actual Rumble.
Yeah. You know, I need to fact check that and make sure it's true. They take a lot of liberties on that show, but I think that is true.
Yeah, I remember hearing it somewhere else.
Yeah.
Besides Young Rock. I've heard that before, that he was the...
It was a great episode. The actor that they got to play the young Andre did not look like Andre at all.
No. But the guy that played Pat Patterson actually is
He did, yes. Yeah. And even spoke like him. So.
Yeah. And obviously the guy that plays Rocky Johnson is a really good... has a really good look. They did good there. And even High Chief looked pretty
Yeah.
I got to tell you, because they did flashbacks to High Chief when he starred in one of the James Bond movies.
Right.
And the guy they got for Connery, the voice, man, they had it down.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Which was.
And I tell you what, the guy who plays present day Rock looks exactly like the Rock.
Yeah, it's uncanny.
Looks and speaks exactly like him.
Yeah, it's like they cloned him or something.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I thought it was kind of cool that they had an episode highlighting Pat Patterson and talking about the inception of the Rumble a week after the actual event, which is kind of cool.
And I always like to see, again, even when they're taking liberties, anything from like that era of wrestling, anything from the old territory days, the pre-WrestleMania days is intriguing to me. So
yeah.
That's why I even listen to some podcasts of some people who I don't always agree with them, like Jim Cornette sometimes.
I'm still upset about what you texted me. How dare he talk about my Earth 2 wife like that? I'm gonna have to send him a strongly worded message.
I agree with a lot of things he says about wrestling anyway. But yeah, he's not a huge fan of women's wrestling, and he's definitely not a fan of Alexa. So if you ever listen to his podcast, he's not huge on her. So
I think she's great. I think her performance is great. I think her in-ring ability is pretty solid. And
well, we'll talk about that as we go on here. And yeah, I thought she and Bianca's match was really good, but we'll get into that as we get into the Royal Rumble.
Absolutely, sure, we sure will. So let's talk about that Royal Rumble.
Let's talk about the Royal Rumble. All right.
Where do we start, Donnie? Where do you want to start?
Well, the first match was the men's Royal Rumble.
Indeed, it was. That's a hell of a way to kick off the show.
Yeah.
I guess it makes sense. You don't want to do the women's and the men's back to back.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that would wear people out.
Right.
Right.
So you have to space them out a bit.
Not to mention this time the main event was so dramatic and so emotional, I think, for a lot of people.
Yeah, you had to leave it last. Yeah, for sure. But I mean, first entrance, the first entrant,
Gunther.
How do you say Gunther? How the hell do you say this?
Gunther, yes.
I don't know, whatever. But look, I'm going to say something. I'm going to say several things. First of all, that Intercontinental Championship looks like crap. Can we go back to the good one, please? I mean, I don't like it. That's number one. I'm going to turn into the nostalgia villain that Jeff Thorne talked about in his Green Lantern run.
Okay. Oh, great. I'm doing a podcast with Isak now.
Yeah. So that's number one. Number two, look, I'm not going to discredit this Gunther character's in-ring ability. He's got he's talented in the ring. But good Lord, is his character a snooze fest?
Mm-hmm.
They're pushing this guy hard.
Mm-hmm. And he beat Braun Strowman.
Right, yeah. And in ring ability, he's got the talent. I don't see this guy ever as a world champion because I don't see him as the face of the company.
I think, I would say, and I'm going to agree with you on something. He's not the most interesting character yet, but he's putting a lot of things together. And to me, I would say it was either he or Rhea were the performers of the night on this show. Because he put in such hard work. Yes.
Yeah.
And his back was all scratched up too, by the way. Yeah, I think that they are setting him up to be maybe not a world champion in the near future, but I believe that he's probably going to challenge Cody Rhodes if Cody Rhodes does win the belt. So I think you'll see him as a regular challenger for the belt. Now, I'm not sure whether he's going to win the belt at this point.
Yeah, if they were ever going to make him world champion, they'd have to tweak his character.
They need to develop it a little bit more. So
yeah.
But I mean, physically, he's a marvel. Obviously, if you look at the way he's transformed his body and how tough he is, he's more athletic than he looks like, because he's a big guy, but he doesn't lack athleticism. I thought he gave a dynamic performance, as did Rhea. There were a lot of good performers on this show, but those two stood out.
Yeah, definitely. Overall, though, there were some cool moments in the men's Royal Rumble. Any that you want to bring to light before I say one of mine? We'll see if we have the same.
Well, there was quite a few. First of all, Brock Lesnar, I thought was not exactly careful when he was in there. Now, don't get me wrong. I think it's great to have Brock Lesnar in the Royal Rumble. Obviously, he brought a lot of fanfare with him, but he came in looking, just absolutely fist and fire, and he didn't look like he was taking any care with tossing people outside. And then he got outside, and I've heard that some of what he did was not planned, and that it didn't sit well with everybody, including one of the things, grabbing one of the referees and throwing him out in the crowd. I've heard that didn't sit well with everybody. So,
especially if it's not planned.
Yes.
If you haven't coordinated with the guy that you're going to grab and treat like a rag doll.
Yeah.
Right, so that he could prepare himself.
I heard that they said that it was a planned freak out, but they didn't realize he was going to do things like throw part of the announce desk into the ring and things like that. And people were a little taken aback by how nuts he was.
Right. Because how can any of the performers in there prepare for, here comes the projectile that we weren't expecting,
Right. Even if it's a light one, you never know. It could hit somebody in the eye.
And it's not like it's a bottle of water, which is still, you don't want anybody throwing, right?
Right.
But you don't want to give free license, say, hey, the fans are going to start throwing bottled water or whatever. But a part of it, however worked in that table is for potentially throwing people on it, whatever. You're still picking that thing up and tossing it into the ring.
Right.
Unexpectedly, it could, hit somebody, it could do damage. So when you don't expect that stuff, it's going to piss people off, right?
Yeah.
And again, I'm like, when he kind of manhandled that referee and like threw him over the barricade, I'm like, okay, his back tomorrow morning is not going to be in good shape.
Yeah. Like I said, that and the guy really didn't look like he was ready for it. Now, perhaps again, he was just acting because it would be pretty easy to act scared if Brock Lesnar all of a sudden grabbed you. But it looked like maybe that was something that wasn't planned and maybe went a little wrong there.
Right.
So that was one thing that I noticed. Another thing, maybe the weirdest spot I've ever seen was the New Day doing the cat dog butt slap, where they were like joined together and slapping each other on the butt. I was like, for people who don't know, by the way, Kofi Kingston's my favorite wrestler since 2010, but that was a weird spot.
It was, but hey, it's the New Day, and
it's the New Day. You never know with those guys, so
they do some entertaining and odd stuff.
One thing that I noticed, it looked like Xavier Woods was going with what's his name from Alpha Academy, not Otis.
The Shush guy.
I'm
Gable,
blanking on Chad Gable. Okay, Chad Gable. The two of them looked like they were legitimately having a match for about 60 seconds, just to see and just to make it look good, like an actual folk style wrestling match.
Yeah, like just to see if maybe there's an angle there that they want.
Yeah, it looked good too. By the way, I was like, wow, they're really going at it. So yeah,
maybe there's an angle there in the future.
Could be, yeah. Xavier Woods knows what he's doing when it comes to that too. So
absolutely, but we'll have to wait and see on that. But yeah, that was very well done. You know what actually got me? I like how two people they treated when they came in. I think they did well with them was Braun Strowman
and
Omos. As much as I think he's one-dimensional. When those two guys at their size come in, they should have a little bit of a run, even though, I mean, you could tell by the lead-ups that these two weren't going to win anything. Right? But even though that's the case, when they come in, they should be eliminating some people.
Yes.
And they should be doing it with ease, and they were when they came in. And I think didn't Strowman eliminate Omos, or was it the other way around?
No, Strowman eliminated Omos.
Yeah.
And I'm going to agree with you there. I think they're using Omos correctly. He's not on every show every week, and when he comes out, he's protected, and he can come out and do what he does well.
Yeah.
And still be very effective as a presence there. And they're not highlighting his weaknesses. And you could say the same for Strowman. Don't get me wrong. I think Braun Strowman is a great athlete, but he's also a little older, and I've heard that he's had some issues with his knees. He's not the most mobile guy at this point.
But I do think Strowman has a bit more in-ring talent than.
Well, he's been at it much longer, so obviously yes. But I think they're both being used correctly. I like the Braun Strowman Ricochet tag team. I never would have thought that. Yeah.
I do like that. I have, again, I know they have a tag team title match next week. I don't think they're going to win it, even though I wouldn't mind if they did. I think they'd be a fun tag team champions. I think the crowd could get behind them, but I think there are other plans for Mania that will cause the Usos to lose at Mania. But we can maybe get into that speculation at the end of the show.
At the end, likewise, yeah.
But
one of the things I want to highlight here too is the Logan Paul Ricochet spot.
Oh yeah, good. We had both had that on the list.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah. That was amazing. And the thing I want to bring up here is Adam knows this. Yesterday, we had to put a very old cat that we had to sleep. Very dear friend, was a cat to both of my children. But I remember distinctly about 10 years ago being home on the weekend, and I had two cats at the time, and they crouched on opposite ends of the room and literally did a spot that looked a lot like that spot where they met right in front of my field of vision, just like that.
That's awesome.
And so when I saw that spot, I really thought about, my poor little fuzzy boy, who we had to put down because he was in very poor health. But anyway, yeah, I like that spot. I thought it, obviously dangerous, but it came off
that was
well.
insane. Yeah.
Yeah. And I thought that was a great spot. The crowd really seemed to hate Logan Paul. So,
like those two guys, it's those two guys, the way they move and the stuff they do.
Yeah.
It looks like stuff out of a comic book, like stuff that a superhero can pull off.
Yeah, it was the kind of things that made me that, when Kofi took over as my favorite wrestler when Shawn Michaels retired, it was because he could do things like that nobody else could do. And now you got two guys. And Ricochet in particular, I really do like Ricochet. I hope they do something with him other than just like letting him languish on the mid card.
Look, to me, choking. To me, Ricochet, he's been in this spot before. But a guy like Ricochet should either be the Intercontinental Champion or the U.S. Champion.
Mm-hmm.
I get that Theory is there. Austin Theory, now he's got his full name back.
Yeah.
Because Triple H has common sense.
Yeah.
Like really, what is the point of dropping Austin? Like, who calls him? Look, I know. Look, yes, wrestling is entertainment. It's fictionalized. It's like watching a TV show. I get it. But who in the hell calls their... Look, if a parent ever named their child Theory or called their child, just called their child Theory, they should be, child services should be called. I'm sorry. So, thankfully, he has his name back. I don't think he's going to be the U.S. champion for long.
I've always wondered where Vince's, fascination with just one word names comes from.
I get.
Is it from Madonna and Cher and performers like that?
Names like Hulk Hogan, Coco Beware, they make sense because you can kind of in your head continuity, that would be something you could make believe that could be somebody's real name, right?
Yeah.
Just now, where I draw the line, but as a kid I was naive and I actually thought that was his name. Junkyard Dog, and I actually called somebody that I saw at church one time because he looked like Junkyard Dog, and my parents were embarrassed, but I digress.
I can only imagine, man.
They, you know what? They made this side note, quick divergent. So, because it was at the end of it was going into if I remember correctly, it was going into the church that I saw this guy, and I thought because wrestling was that was it, that was my thing, right? And so I yelled out, "Hey, look, it's Junkyard Dog!" And me, full blast in the church. Because I didn't have an inside voice back then. It was just...
Right. We can have a whole podcast on this, embarrassing things Adam did at church as a kid.
So my parents, my parents were like, you under their breath, they're like, just shut up, so we had to wait till after the mass, and everybody it was clearing. They had me stay and apologize. Mm-hmm. To the guy's credit, he said, "Oh, don't worry." He's like, I have no idea what was he talking about? And then my mom explained that it's a restaurant, and he goes, "Oh, so he made me somebody famous? That's no problem." So
that's like a nice guy, yeah.
Yeah, so that was pretty fun. But but anyway, you can believe those were real names, sort of. Theory, I'm sorry, it sounds like a math problem, and I'm not interested in that.
It really sounded weird on its own.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'm glad he has his name back.
So I don't think he's going to be U.S. champion for long. I think he's probably going to lose it at Elimination Chamber. Mm-hmm. But I'd like to see Ricochet with a run. Has he had a run with the U.S. title? I don't think so, right?
It wasn't. He didn't. He had a run with the IC title.
Yeah, IC title before Gunther. Right. Yeah.
Right.
But, so I could see him challenging for the U.S. title.
Oh, definitely.
Or him and Braun as tag team champions, but I don't think they're going to beat the Usos. I think something else is going to happen.
Likewise, I think there's a plan beyond Elimination Chamber for what the tag team titles have. So.
But I got to give credit to Logan Paul. He's every time. No, I don't.
I thought he was going to be gone a lot longer. I was hearing that his
personality turns me off. I'll be honest with his podcast. He's an arrogant. He looks like an arrogant SOB. Yeah. But in ring talent, he's got it. So I got to give him credit. Right? Props for him for that, right?
Right.
But that was a hell of a spot, yeah, for sure.
Couple of other observations. Number one, I think Otis needs to be a babyface again.
Yeah, you could tell the people want to cheer for him.
They really do. And I like Chad Gable. Don't get me wrong, but I don't think that I think they could have another partner for him and call them something else and let Otis go off on his own for a while, right. Or just turn the tag team babyface. I don't know, but the crowds really seem to like Otis when he does the comic stuff.
Yeah. When he does the worm, I know it grosses out Corey Graves, but it's fun. And listen, no matter what happens with Otis, he can never complain about his spot in the company because for months he got to carry around and kiss Mandy Rose, and he got paid for that, Donnie. Yeah. I'd do that for free, Vince. You got rid of her, but why didn't you call me?
Let me tell you what if WWE wanted to have a comeback, a surprise comeback that everybody would love, let Otis get into some situation where there's somebody like somebody like Rhea and Dominic or something like that, okay? And they're both
they beat him up,
they're both beating him down, and he obviously needs a woman counterpart. If all of a sudden Mandy Rose came out of the back as a surprise to come save her old boyfriend, the crowds would go nuts.
Yeah, because she's so over, like she was so over.
Yeah.
And she was a heel in NXT, but still, I was like, hey man, she was over, right? Right. So I don't know. I just think, look, there are certain policies that to me, look, if she's doing full-fledged pornography,
mm-hmm.
I was trying to think of the proper word, but that is the proper word. I was actually going a lot more crude, but I had to censor myself. But if she's doing full-fledged pornography, then I get their stance, right?
Yeah.
But if she's doing what borderlines is like teasing more than anything else. Yeah, and the only reason they're pissed off is because they're not taking home any of the cash. Let's call it what it is.
That's what I've heard. And I don't know what her contract says. I don't know what the pictures look like. It's not even OnlyFans. It's some other site that she's on or whatever.
And I've seen some of the.
I've seen that stuff doesn't interest me.
They're fine. Well, on the list, I have to keep abreast of these things, Donnie, because the list.
Okay.
I didn't mean it like that, but I just realized what I did. Anyway.
All I'm going to say is that, it seems hypocritical, some of the things that we know Vince McMahon has done. And he's going to come out, WWE comes off with the moral high ground here.
Again, let me point to the fact that this is a company that had the owner pull down his pants and have people kiss his ass.
Right.
And had Triple H get into a coffin and simulate having relations with a corpse. I don't know. To me, it seems a little bit hypocritical, but I digress. But I agree with your comeback scenario. For sure.
I think people really like Mandy with Otis, and so that's all I was trying to say about that. Yeah. So, couple of other observations. Number one, I really like that they had Rhodes and Rollins in near the end.
Yeah, because you thought maybe they'll be the final two, right?
Right. Yeah. And the callback to that being the feud where Cody was injured and he had that great cage match, probably the best singles match of his career.
Yeah.
I thought that worked, and I think they could do something with that now. Even though Rollins is a babyface, I think that they could still have the two go at it, and maybe have Rollins express some admiration for Cody. And
it'd be cool if Rollins ever won the. Is he in the Elimination Chamber match for the U.S.?
I believe so. Let me look that up. Anyway, you go ahead.
If he's in the Elimination Chamber, I'd have him win it. And then after Cody wins the title from Roman, which I believe is going to happen, I would do a build to like Survivor Series.
Yeah, as of right now, the participants are Austin Theory, Seth Rollins, Johnny Gargano, and Bronson Reed.
Okay, so what could be a potential booking scenario is imagine Seth wins the U.S. title, right?
Mm-hmm.
Cody wins the whatever it's called.
Universal. Unless they split them up. I mean, I don't know what
But
they're
let's
going to do
pretend
there.
for a second that they're keeping them together. I would do a build to survive. Then I would do a build to Survivor Series and have like a title versus title match between Seth and Cody.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Could be interesting.
I think that would be fascinating. But I'd also like to see Johnny Gargano get the U.S. title because I think he's a hell of a talent. So,
okay.
And he's a comic book fan.
Right. That's always a good thing.
That's why I'd like to see him.
Yeah. That's another thing I love about the New Day is that they're comic book guys.
So. Those guys dressed as the Green and White Ranger. So nothing but success I wish for them because they got.
Remember the Skeletor out, the Masters of the Universe outfit, the one
absolutely.
that
like
with the Skeletor does.
They got their geek credentials are top tier.
So just a couple of other things. Number one, I also think that I like the homages that Cody did to both Dusty and Goldust. He did the Dusty elbow. He did the Goldust, whatever you want to call that thing, where he does the
Shattered Dreams too, right? To Gunther.
The Golden Globes. Yeah. Was it called the Shattered Dreams or the Golden Globes?
At one point, I think it was the Shattered Dreams when he used to kick.
Anyway, he put him in the corner and, kicked him in the little Gunther, basically.
Right.
Yeah.
Which is what I'd like to do to, all of the Snyder cult and every Montreal Canadian fan out there. But I digress.
Well. I think there's also some women who'd like to do that to Vince McMahon, too. But anyway.
That could be a new segment on WWE TV. Instead of the Kiss My Ass Club, it's the Kick Vince in the Nuts Club. And all the women come out. I think, and listen,
that might be a long line of women, too.
Wait, let's be honest for a second. You don't think Vince has thought of that as a potential storyline for TV? Come on. If he could capitalize on his situation, he would. Come on.
Yeah. So, also, I want to point out, and this may not be word for word, but my favorite line of the Royal Rumble came from, of all people, Pat McAfee, who was definitely not my a favorite announcer of mine when he first started.
Yeah,
but his line, when Rey Mysterio was announced and he didn't come out, and Michael Cole was, heaping praise on Rey Mysterio and saying, he's a Lucha Libre legend and he once lasted an hour in the Royal Rumble. And Pat McAfee said, he has one of the worst children in the history of having kids. That was a good line.
And then when Dominic came on and Michael Cole wanted to call him a piece of shit so bad, he said, just say it, Cole, just say it.
You know what? Yes, Dominic may look young. Yes, he may not have his dad's charisma, but there is no doubt he is getting heat right now.
Yeah.
There's just you can't deny it.
Yeah. I mean.
So, and coming out in his dad's mask and then pulling it off, the crowd obviously did not like it. So, yeah. So, now just real quick, what's your take on Cody being the one who won the Rumble?
Well, first of all, I like that the final two was a bit of an actual one-on-one match between Gunther and Cody.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was, those two, the chops they were giving each other. Like I was in pain watching that.
Yeah.
But they put on a good match within the Rumble. I was totally engrossed.
Yes.
But you knew when it got down to Gunther and Cody that Cody was going to win the Rumble.
Sure.
I mean, anybody with a brain knew, like you said last week, going in, Cody was at the center of the poster.
Right.
So, but in terms of him winning, I think, look, with the fanfare he got when he came back,
mm-hmm.
and all the build-up, and then he got injured, and all those vignettes, he had to win it. And him going to Mania, they're positioning him to take the titles off of Roman.
It's the right call for right now. Now
it is.
Cody's not. He's not like one of my top 3 favorites.
I like Cody.
Anything like that.
Yeah, I like Cody.
Yeah, but I think
I'm not obsessed with him, but I like him.
Okay, yeah. You've got to look at it objectively and say who's hot right now. It's Cody and Rhea.
Yeah.
Those are the 2 talents that they're positioning to take belts off of people. So
because Roman is transitioning
mm-hmm.
to part-time.
Mm-hmm.
Who can be the face of the company on the men's side? Cody is one of those guys.
Right.
And so, and there's the whole story. His father never got the world title. That's good storytelling, having
mm-hmm.
him win it.
Yeah.
So I'm ready for that match, and I think it'll be a good match.
Well, Dusty did have he had lots of belts in the NWA.
Right, but never the WWE.
Never the WWF belt.
Right,
So,
or F, yeah. So I think it's the smart play. It's the right play. There's only one other play I'd make, but we can touch on that after when we get into the Roman Sami stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's the right play there. And I like that he did the thing on the sign where he alluded to his past with the Bullet Club and all that. That was cool, right?
Yeah.
And I'm sure Triple H, being in charge, allowed that to happen, because if Vince was still calling the shots creatively, I don't think Cody's doing that kind of stuff. So
yeah, if Vince was still the one, definitely calling the shots at this point, Austin Theory would be the guy. He might even have the belt right now. So
yeah, so I think it's the right call. I thought it was a good Rumble. The finish was predictable in the sense that Cody won. But getting there was entertaining, and I thoroughly enjoyed myself watching the men's Rumble.
Right.
So
I'm going to agree with you there.
Are we going to rate this? So how do we rate a Rumble?
I think it's hard to rate a Royal Rumble. I think we can rate the other three. If you want to rate them, though, I would give it. Are we give letter grades?
We do number.
Number. All right, I'm gonna give it a solid
stars.
4. I'll give it a 4 or 5.
Yeah, me too. Yeah. 4 stars, and it's for basically the fact that Cody and Gunther made a match out of it at the end, and that spot between Logan Paul and Ricochet. And by the way, good for Ricochet. Look, if Ricochet never has a title again in WWE, that's fine. You know why? Because he's marrying that announcer, Samantha Irvin, and on the list. So good for him, Ricochet. I'd be bouncing off the wall if I got to go home to that every night too.
So you think he's going to be happy regardless?
Absolutely. Why wouldn't
you? There you go. So next up, we have the Lights Out match.
Oh, good Lord.
The Mountain Dew Lights Out match between Bray Wyatt and LA Knight.
Can you see what I'm doing, Donnie, with the look. I like the craziness of Bray Wyatt, the whole gimmick, it's creepy, it's weird. I dig it, right? I like LA Knight. I really like his character. I like his promos. I like his cockiness. I like the whole thing, because, and I think it was in TNA or Impact, whatever the hell it's called now. He used to call people dummy before he did the which I do now every time a Snyder calls his tweets, but I digress. So I like LA Knight. I really do. I like Bray Wyatt. I used to get into crazy matches like Buried Alive matches and casket matches and all the crazy night crap that The Undertaker and Mick Foley used to do. I used to get into those theme matches. But I'm sorry, a glow-in-the-dark match where both combatants look like, you remember the Joel Schumacher Batman films?
Yes,
The Neon Gang?
Yeah,
I don't need to see that. I don't need reminders of that. It traumatized me enough in 1997. I don't need to see it anymore. But on top of that, I don't think LA Knight fits that kind of match.
Yeah.
You know who you do crazy matches with Bray Wyatt with? Or who you should have done it back in the day? The Undertaker. You know who should have ended The Undertaker's winning streak if you had to end it? Bray Wyatt. That's who should have ended it. But
that's a separate thing. I've never thought that Brock Lesnar needed that, but that's
to me, Donnie,
that's a whole different podcast.
Do you think that my main 2 problems with the match was it's essentially a glow in the dark match. That's what it is.
Yeah.
And the other thing is I don't think LA Knight was the right opponent for that kind of match.
All I'm going to say is I think it was effective for what it was. It wasn't a great match. I don't think the crowd exactly knew what to make of it. It did have some cool visuals, and Bray did his stuff. I think they've taken a little too long to get to this point. I think that Bray should be in. They should have positioned him to feud with, Roman or someone else like that.
Yeah.
The stuff that I really didn't think they needed was the aftermatch stuff. The the stuff with Uncle Howdy, it looked weird, by the way.
Okay, here's my thing with that.
Yeah.
I'm glad you brought it up. Because before this match, they were kind of letting the audience wonder, where's Uncle Howdy going in terms of, is he going to side with Bray?
Right.
Or is he going to turn on Bray? And instead of building on that, they're just like, oh no, yeah, he's kind of with Bray.
Mm-hmm.
So all the tension that they had built of will he, won't he, was evaporated.
Yeah.
Right?
I just feel like they need to get down to the story here. Let us know what Uncle Howdy's role is. I
think Alexa's going to come between the two of them.
Well, it could be, but let's get on with it. That's all I'm feeling right now with those two angles. Yeah.
Donnie, if I was Bray Wyatt and you were Uncle Howdy and Alexa was in the mix, we'd have a problem. But I digress.
No. Well, but don't just automatically assume. It could be that we have Uncle Howdy and Bray Wyatt as a tag team as well.
Right, but it's like the way they've built it up is that there's a potential, or there was a potential for Bray to turn on. Uncle Howdy to turn on Bray.
Right.
Like they were,
which is weird that it's a character that nobody really knows prior to Bray coming in a couple of months ago.
Yeah. It's
yeah.
Where's it gone?
Right, and that's been my question. So and I say this as a huge fan of Bray Wyatt. Like I said, I would rather have seen Bray built up and be the guy who was challenging Roman at WrestleMania more so than Cody. But I don't think you can do it under these circumstances.
Yeah, like remember at the 30th anniversary of Raw?
Mm-hmm.
When they had that moment with Bray, LA Knight, and The Undertaker?
And Undertaker, yeah.
And Undertaker and Bray had that stare down. Yeah. I'm like, see, that should have been a match a couple of years ago, but...
Well, a lot of people wanted that, and it certainly would have been better than the John Cena Bray Wyatt thing.
And it should have been Undertaker, Dead Man Undertaker versus The Fiend.
Yeah, exactly. Creepy guy versus creepy guy.
That's why, spoiler, that's why Undertaker versus Mankind worked. That's why the feud between Undertaker and Kane worked. Yeah. Weird guys fighting your average babyface or heel doesn't work. And the only reason they did this glow-in-the-dark match was because Mountain Dew gave them a crap ton of money to do it.
Right, exactly. And you can't discount that. I realize they've got to get their money somewhere, but yeah, when you see the Mountain Dew logo, in the ring as they're fighting, I was just like, okay, that's obviously what a lot of this was about. So,
and speaking of LA,
have you tried that, by the way, the Pitch Black Mountain Dew?
I have not, but Cody did.
Yeah,
Cody said it was good, so who knows?
Yeah. Yeah, we ought to give it a shot.
Yeah, well, we should do it on the show. We'll drink it and be like,
yeah, we'll do it at WrestleMania. We'll drink a little bit and see.
Cody, we'll be like, Cody was lying. It was all PR. No, I'm kidding. But in regards to LA Knight,
hopefully it's PR and not just pee. Hopefully it doesn't taste like pee.
I hope it's not that Granny's peach tea that Zack Snyder.
Oh no! Don't remind me of that. Yeah.
But what a ridiculousness. Anyway, with regards to LA Knight, he's a guy that should be in the Intercontinental Championship or U.S. title picture. That's where he should be, not glow in the dark matches.
I think he needs more seasoning, but I see where you're going.
No, but if you watch him in NXT, you'll understand. Sure. Yeah, that's his trajectory to me.
Okay. So, what would you give this match?
Okay, generosity here. 1.5.
Okay. I'm going to give it 3.5. Like I said, I thought it worked for what it was. I didn't think they needed the post-match activities. I don't think the crowd really got into that, and it just kind of hampered things. And again, a lot of people have confirmed this too, that Uncle Howdy actually didn't hit LA Knight. He jumped to a certain part of the stage, and then LA Knight rolled over on him. Yeah, it just didn't look good. So, yeah. All right, next up we have Adam's girlfriend, Alexa Bliss.
Should we do a pause here? Should we take a break, do our break, and then come back and finish off the rest of the two?
Whatever you wish, my tribal chief.
There we go. So we're going to take thank you, wife man. We're going to take a break, And we'll be back on the other side to talk about my Earth 2 multiverse wife versus Bianca Belair, and then the women's Royal Rumble match. So grab your Mountain Dew, what was it, the dark...
Pitch Black. Mountain Dew Pitch Black, yeah.
Grab your Mountain Dew glow in the dark and take a couple of drinks of that, grab your popcorn, and we'll be right back. Stay tuned.
Don't go anywhere.
What's up, everyone? It's the Emerald Enthusiast. For all of your multiverse viewing and listening needs, check out our shows, which include Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Ghostbusters, Power Rangers, the Marvel Universe, and the DC Universe, including the Emerald Echo podcast. You can check us out on Podbean, and remember to subscribe right here on YouTube. That's the Multiverse Musings Podcast Network. From the first podcast to the last.
And we're back.
Indeed we are. And
I got ready to say, and we're Pitch Black. So,
you should have, yeah, but anyway.
they're not sponsoring us, so yeah, we're not going to give them any
then
free.
We have to close the lights, and it's a whole thing. No, but we are back, and we're going to talk about the second half of the Royal Rumble Premium Live event, because God forbid they call them pay-per-views anymore.
Pay-per-view, yeah.
Well, they might eventually, because if the sale goes through, depends who they sell to.
Sure.
You may be paying $50 to $60 for these events again.
It's hard to say. PLE doesn't roll off the tongue like pay-per-view.
Tommy,
you can say TV.
Imagine trying to sell the audience, who for years now has had the premium live events as part of the package. When you sell now, say, oh yeah, but you're gonna have to pay $50 to $60.
They're going to get Netflix backlash. That's what's going to happen.
Oh, big time.
Yeah.
But anyway, for now, it's still a premium live event. I will forever call them pay-per-views because that's how I roll.
Right.
And
it just sounds good.
If Vince doesn't like it, I got 2 words for him. But anyway.
Okay, so next up, again, Adam's, was it Earth 2 wife? Is that what you said? Okay. Alexa Bliss versus Montez Ford's wife, Bianca Belair, the current champion. And I thought this match had good psychology. You know, it was 2 former friends. Alexa has snapped underneath whatever influence that, you know, Bray Wyatt is exerting on her, or Uncle Howdy. We don't know exactly.
It's because that I went to Earth 1 to visit Margot Robbie. That's why, folks.
Oh,
it's my fault. Yeah. It is what it is.
So, yeah, again, good psychology here. I like the chokehold spots, believe it or not. Usually that's just a rest spot, but I like that they were using it in this instance to, like, scream at one another and, like, blame one another. I really like the spot where Bianca had her up, like Bianca was sitting in the corner and, like, lifted her up off of her feet and had her in that chokehold. I thought that was really inventive. Lots of good back and forth here. They've worked together before. So, you know, a lot of their spots look good. And I also want to say Alexa's boots were very unusual. Did you see those?
I didn't notice her.
They almost had like open toes. It was like the boot part like was under her feet, obviously. Like the sole part was under her feet, but then it was like open-toed boots. It was very unusual.
Interesting.
I also like Bianca has great outfits too, by the way.
Oh, absolutely.
She always comes out with like something.
Yeah,
and she designs,
both of their ring gears are top tier.
Well, she designs a lot of those herself, and she's really creative. So
I miss when Alexa used to come out as comic book characters. Like, remember when she came out as Iron Man one year?
Yeah.
I'm like, oh.
Well, at least she still does the blue and red hair.
Hey, that's why. Listen, that's why I figured it out, Donnie. That's why Iron Man subliminally. That's why Iron Man was my favorite MCU character.
Okay. Okay. All right.
That's now it works. Now it clicks.
Yeah. Okay, so the end was a little unusual, but Bianca did land the KOD very well. She always does, and it's thunderous. And she got the 1, 2, 3. That's how I thought it was going to turn out. But then it still seems like Alexa is in this program working toward reuniting with Bray in some manner.
Yeah, I think, look, as much as I would have liked to see Alexa as be champion again, you knew that it wasn't going to happen while she's transitioning back to Dark Alexa, Evil Alexa, whatever, however you want to phrase it. I mean, who's to say that this rivalry isn't over, but it comes back around when Alexa is full-blown evil or Dark Alexa, right? Because then you have a clear-cut babyface and heel. See, right now, Alexa's still in the position of people like her, right?
Right.
So...
And I noticed that the crowd wasn't as into it as I thought they would be because there wasn't any, like, clear-cut heel and clear-cut babyface. You know, we obviously, Bianca's the number one babyface, but, Alexa was a babyface not that long ago, and people still like her a lot.
Right, so you almost have to, like, turn her full evil, and then maybe revisit this. Like, that could be good, because she's a strong challenge for the Raw Championship picture, whereas, Charlotte on the other end of the spectrum has... she's having this weekly feud with Sonya Deville, but also, she's going to have Rhea at Mania. It seems like the SmackDown Women's Division, there's more challengers for Charlotte Flair than there is for Bianca, so you kind of need to keep Alexa in that picture.
At least for now.
So maybe, again, once Alexa goes full dark, then we can have that revisited.
Pitch black Alexa.
Yeah, well, hey, if she starts glowing in the dark, I won't have an issue with it at all. I'd be fascinated. But look, I knew she was gonna, and I gotta give props. Yes, Alexa got beat clean, which you kind of had to do to keep Bianca strong. Right. But in the process of that, Alexa still came out looking strong as well, because she got to hit most of her signature moves too. So it was an effective match. It was a little short. It was like it clocked in at 7 minutes, but given what was going on in the show, there's not much. And then again, you had those shenanigans at the end with Uncle Howdy.
Right, with the imagery there. So yeah.
And she wasn't on TV this Monday, so that was disappointing for me. But we'll see. We'll see where she. I just hope. Look, she can go dark, but can we leave that doll in the closet? No.
I'm going to send you one of those one of these days.
No, send me Alexa, and then you can send the doll.
Okay. I think both the U.S. and Canadian government would frown. Both of the governments would frown upon me sending you a person in the mail.
They got bigger concerns right now than one shipment.
Yeah. So. Anyway, so back to reality
Turn
here.
the other way, governments. Just this once. Come on.
Although not exactly reality. WWE reality. Anyway, so Women's Royal Rumble.
Right.
So just some observations here. My first one is that I thought they utilized damage control very effectively here.
Yeah.
Because they were triple teaming everybody.
Yeah.
Coming off like, the mean girls, the bullies.
That's really what they are. Let's be honest. Yeah.
Furthering their feud with Becky Lynch. By the way, Becky Lynch, when she gets angry and gives you that 1,000-yard stare, if I was Seth Rollins, I would never get in an argument with her. I'd be like, "Yes, ma'am."
Absolutely, it's kind of scary.
When she looks angry, I would not want to.
I'd leave the house. Seth wouldn't be laughing the way he does.
No.
When he goes to the ring, when she gives him that look, I'll tell you.
Yeah.
But
so and by the way, another spot I should mention that actually happened before this match was when Edge came out in the Men's Royal Rumble and was fighting and got attacked by Rhea, and out comes Beth Phoenix.
Yeah.
Looking incredibly strong.
Oh yeah, she
and speared Rhea. So Rhea had already had that going into the match. That the angle was that she was injured by Beth Phoenix, who is yet another lady. If she told me to do something, if I were Edge, I'd be like, "All right, yeah, yes, ma'am."
you don't. There's a certain look. If if you're married, your objective is never to piss off your wife, regardless. But when they can physically pick you up and throw you around, it's doubly important just to know your role and shut your mouth when the time arises.
Beth hasn't been. She's only been active here and there. I hope that they bring her back if they give Rhea the belt and have them do a program.
Actually, if you believe certain dirt sheets and things like that, the plan is a tag team match at an upcoming event. Maybe Elimination Chamber, maybe down the road.
Okay.
Between intergender, Edge and Beth Phoenix against Dominic and
that would be enjoyable. Yeah.
I think that's the plan. Okay? It certainly seems like they're sowing the seeds for that. Right?
And I'm fine with that. I mean, that seems really entertaining. I'd also like to see a singles match between Beth Phoenix and Rhea for the belt. You'd have to build, remind people who Beth is.
Right, because let's be honest, we know that Rhea's probably going to beat Charlotte. Because you and I both know that they're going to allow Charlotte to either match or exceed her father's amount of title
reigns. Right.
So, in order to get there, she's going to lose it a couple more times, right? So, and maybe what they could do, Donnie, here's an idea, just a thought. Have Rhea win the SmackDown title, and then have Charlotte go over to Raw, and maybe eventually beat whoever the champion is over there.
Yeah. Some other observations here. I like Xia Li's new look. I also like she did a great job at healing it up and including planting a referee on the outside when he tried to grab her weapon. We saw 3 big returns. Literally Tamina, Piper Niven, and Nia Jax. All coming in, larger women, meaning that, it's more difficult to throw them out. So that added to the drama. By the way, when I said last week that I thought that what I meant to say was I thought Nia Jax was coming back possibly to join the Bloodline.
And you said Nia Rose.
What I said was Nyla Rose because I had just been watching AEW. So I had, 2 big bruisers. I kind of got them, mixed up.
So when we were watching the Rumble, Donnie texts me and says, I was right. I said, yeah, there's that Nyla Jax there. Right.
You just said Nyla Jax.
Yeah.
I said Nyla Rose. I meant to say Nia Jax.
I got it half right and half wrong on purpose.
And I still think they could possibly do that, have her join the Bloodline to kind of negate any of the females who are giving the Bloodline problems.
Now here's an interesting thing, though. Also returning was Chelsea Green, good Canadian girl. Only issue with her is she likes the Canucks. She and Mania, but still on the list.
Okay.
And interestingly enough, they seem to be doing, because she came in and was unceremoniously tossed right back out. I think it's a record for shortest time in the Rumble. Yeah. And they seem to be setting up this kind of Karen kind of gimmick for her.
That's in the 2020s now that we're in, we see, Karens are definitely a villainous archetype. So
yeah, so I think that could work, and I think she'll pull it off well. But it's good to have her back because I think she got the short end of the stick in WWE. She had a couple of injuries, and then she was let go, and so I don't think she really got a chance to show herself. And then just before we talk more about the Rumble, side note, do you think that eventually paves the way for a return to the WWE of her husband, Matt Cardona, a.k.a. Zack Ryder?
It's possible. We've seen more and more talents coming back under Triple H's leadership because he feels like the fans wanted them back.
And I like him because he's a nerd, he's a big action figure collector like us, and he likes the comic books. So I root for him. Plus, I mean, when somebody
he's got a massive collection. Yeah.
Plus, when somebody marries a woman like that, you got to give him props. He just, what are you gonna do? Game recognizes game. You know, they can't always be the multiverse, the magnificent multiverse connoisseur that I am, but, you got to recognize game when they have it. So I know, but yeah.
Speaking of returns,
Michelle
McCool.
See, that was clever because it was in the audience, right? Mm-hmm. She was in the audience with her kids. It's amazing that, when I look at her and I see her with her kids, and I realize, okay, that's the Undertaker's wife. Right. It's still hard for me to recognize. Let me see. Undertaker came in at what, 1990?
Yeah, it was Survivor Series 1990 was his inception as a character.
Okay, so I was 7. So 7 or 8-year-old me is still in there somewhere, and Ken recognizes that this Walking Dead zombie kind of character who scared the living crap out of me back then has a wife and several kids. It's part of me is I get it. He's a human being playing a character, but in the back of my mind, it's still no.
Right.
I put people in body bags and all that weird stuff.
You think that in your mind is that's how he sleeps? Like he, goes into a coffin or zips himself up in a body bag?
Rises up. Yeah, that's still.
By the way, she just happened to be wearing her ring gear.
Like Donnie, by the way, just to this day, whenever I hear that dong from his entrance and the light, it still gives me for a second. It's like, I used to run, Donnie. When the funeral parlor segment used to come on.
Oh yes, yeah.
I used to run behind the couch and peek with one eye. Not really, it's
Well, I'll tell you what. I was in high school.
You traumatized the shit out of me, man.
Well, the angle with the Undertaker, with the Undertaker and Ultimate Warrior when he locked the Warrior in the coffin. Yeah. And of course, in the 80s was a time when people were just like, wrestling's fake, wrestling's stupid. All of a sudden, and everybody knew that I was a huge wrestling fan. Yeah. All of a sudden, everybody was coming up to me telling me how scared they were by that angle, and I'm like, I thought you didn't like wrestling.
Yeah, because how did they do that?
Everybody was watching.
Because you're trying to figure out how do you do that? How did they do that?
Yeah, but a lot of people were just like, I was legitimately scared because I didn't realize, how could they do that safely? So yeah.
And the cool thing is, she look, I gotta give her credit. She got a couple of good spots in there.
She didn't look rusty.
She was doing it in Uggs, for God's sake.
But like I said, she just happened to be wearing her ring gear. It was almost like it was planned.
I mean, are you telling me wrestling's predetermined, Donnie?
Are you suggesting that? You've got to be kidding me.
I don't know.
Wrestling is real. It's life that's fake.
If you ask the Iron Sheik, he'll probably put you in the camel clutch and tell you he's going to do some weird things to you.
Speaking of impressive, the riptide on Nia Jax from Rhea Ripley.
I don't know.
Holy!
And I don't mean this in offense. Like, how the hell do you lift? How do you have the energy that long into the Rumble to lift her up like that?
And that's and again, we're not in any way like trying to body shame Nia Jax here.
I'm not saying it as an offense.
She's a bigger woman, and to lift her up like that, and I think had Rhea been fresh, she would have been able to do it even better. So it just really shows how strong Rhea is. She's come a long way.
You know what's funny about what I liked about that was when Nia and Rhea, Mommy, as Damien, what's his name? Ray calls her, whatever the hell his name is, that little prick. I called him. I almost called him Damien because I thought of Damian Wayne. That's why they're both prick. They're both little pricks.
Yeah.
When Rhea was when Nia were doing their stare down, I think it was Michael Cole or maybe it was Pat McAfee says the irresistible force meets the immovable object, and that's exactly what Gorilla Monsoon said when Hulk Hogan was staring down under the giant WrestleMania 3. And as that was a moment for me in my wrestling fandom. I was like, oh, that's a great callback. Yeah. But that was a great, to pull that move off was fantastic. And I gotta give Liv Morgan a lot of credit too, because
she worked hard. Yes.
Yeah, she was in there. She was like 1 and 2 lasting until the end.
Mm-hmm. That was also a dangerous spot at the end. I really liked the way it looked with Rhea almost going out and then saving herself and then using her feet to pull Liv Morgan out. It looked great.
And also the Asuka spitting the mist.
Yeah, I like her look too. By the way,
yeah,
the new look. Yeah,
but it's interesting because now, like again, I think that kind of a finish where that mist is involved, it keeps all three of them strong. Like, of course, Rhea going over and starting at number 1 makes her immensely hot going into the Rumble. But, Liv lasting that whole time, and she could go out and say, look, the only reason I lost was because I couldn't see because the mist was in my eyes or whatever, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I think it keeps all three women very strong.
No, I would agree.
Which is what you want, right?
I thought it was a great showcase for a lot of their women talent here.
And look, I'm not particularly fond of this. I thought her dude drop character was stupid, and I don't know if I'm going to like this, whatever the hell her name is now.
Well, that was her name before she came in. I think Piper Niven. A lot of wrestling fans know that name, Piper Niven.
It's a better name than dude drop.
Yeah.
Like, what is that? But regardless, she put in a good showing, and I like the fact that with these more physically imposing women, when it was time to get those ones out, the rest of the women had to band together to take them out. I like that.
Yeah, again, that's good storytelling.
Yeah.
So one other thing before we talk about like rating the match, what is it with Pat McAfee calling it a championship? He did that.
I noticed that. I'm like, what?
Championship. I'm like, it sounds like it's a hot dog eating title or something. It's
I could figure it out. Yeah.
Like, what in the world? Why do you keep calling it that?
Like when he calls Roman the champion, he says champion.
Yeah.
When he says championship, it's champion. I'm like, what?
Championship. And
why
I'm like,
is there a difference?
I don't know. Anyway.
I don't understand.
It was bizarre. But yeah, I like the Rumble, the women's Rumble too. I'm gonna give it a 4. I thought it was pretty much on par with the guys' Rumble.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
I think it was even. I'm gonna give it a 4, but I give it like an extra, tip of the hat, just because they had the first and second combatants last to the final 2, whereas in the men's it was 1 versus 30, which. Yeah.
So, next up.
4 for me as well.
4 for you. Okay. Last but not least, Kevin Owens.
Did we rate the Bianca and Alexa match, by the way?
I don't know if we did. Go ahead. Yeah.
I'll give it a solid 3.5.
That would be my rating too. I thought it worked. It was short. I've definitely seen better matches out of both women, but they worked well together. And like I said, I thought it worked for what they were going for. So yeah, 3.5 for that one. So, last but not least, Kevin Owens versus the Tribal Chief himself, Roman Reigns. And we knew that there was going to be a lot of drama in this match. Kevin Owens and Roman Reigns, it's a pairing that I really never get tired of.
Yeah.
They work so well together, and Kevin Owens, he really showed you why he's valuable as a performer. He had a great program last year with Steve Austin.
Yeah.
And now he's shown just how versatile he is by being a babyface against the Bloodline.
Yeah.
And the match was brutal. Some of those spots, like Roman throwing him against the ring steps.
Yeah.
Not spots you see a lot. And they look dangerous, but it looked like they were able to do those safely.
Oh, for sure. And it's almost like the way they sold it, that Kevin, despite Sami's continuous siding with the Bloodline to this point, it's almost as if Kevin was fighting with a purpose to snap Sami out of this malaise that he's,
Yes.
Easy.
Yeah.
And,
to try to break the control of Roman Reigns over Sami.
And whenever you saw Kevin with the upper hand on Roman, you could see he was like yelling towards Sami, like, you see, and he's trying to, like, they'd have those moments where he's yelling at Sami to kind of shake him out of his trance in terms of with the bloodline. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that was very effectively done, I thought. And I got to give credit to the referee as well in terms of his count and how he made it look like the close call, like the timing of all that when either or would have the edge, but the other would kick out.
Mm-hmm.
It was all very well timed. Like nothing looked out of place.
It was a great looking match, even though I thought there was almost no chance of Kevin Owens winning.
You knew it was going to, but you knew also something was going to happen.
Right, something big was going to happen, and something big did happen.
The outcome of the match was inconsequential.
Right. Yeah, I knew Roman was going to win.
But didn't it take like 3 spears throughout the whole match?
Yeah, and the spots outside, he took beatings on the outside, so they made Kevin Owens still look strong. He's looked strong in this feud with the Bloodline, but Roman still went over, obviously.
And Kevin got a stunner in there too, right?
Yes, and it looked good.
And he had Roman down for like a 5 count, but the ref was
distracted. Yes. But eventually Roman gets the 1, 2, 3, and then we get the big storyline payoff. Roman brings handcuffs in.
By the way, I timed that. That was a 13-minute spot.
Well, good for you. That's the kind of insight you get here.
Yeah.
But
along with pen clicks, but anyway.
And pen clicks, yes. And dad jokes.
Yeah.
So anyway, Roman handcuffs Kevin Owens to the ropes, and they continue to pound on him. And then Roman gets a chair, and Sami is trying to talk him out of it by saying, you know what, this is beneath you. You've won. You're still the man. You don't need to go this far.
Well, the best part about it was that he was going to hit Kevin.
Right.
And as he was going to go swing, that's when Sami's like, don't.
Right, don't do it. And so this is the point where Sami Zayn has to make the choice.
Because Roman gives him the chair.
Right.
And Roman is, when Sami is hesitating, Roman's, in addition to saying that, says he doesn't care about you. He goes, I love you. The bloodline loves you. We took you in. And so all that that talk.
We were the ones who saved you from that stuff with Johnny Knoxville.
But all that conversation, it engrosses. See, when a story is built so well, that kind of stuff engrosses you in. And there were certain angles used that sort of replay that spot on Raw and SmackDown that show different angles, and you see Kevin looking up like helplessly at Sami, kind of almost with his eyes pleading with him not to do it, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And those kind of things, a little bit of dialogue here, a couple of looks there, they really sort of, engross you in where you forget that it's entertainment and you become so engrossed, like, don't do it, man. No, you know what I mean?
By the way, and I won't say what the crowd was saying, but Roman had nuclear heat because the crowd was saying, they were chanting something that we can't say here. Yeah,
expletive you Roman.
Yeah.
And so then the moment happens where the Roman turns towards Kevin on a slight angle, and Sami gets the chair ready, and he smacks Roman in the back with a chair.
And that's the loudest pop I've heard since Stone Cold last year's WrestleMania.
No, I was like, you would think The Rock came out.
Right.
Back in 2013.
Right.
That's how loud it was. But the interesting thing was the way it was positioned, the way Roman was positioned, the way he fell. It's a callback to when the Shield turned on him. Remember?
Yeah. Yeah.
So excellently told storytelling, and then Jay is oh my God, what are you doing, Jimmy and Jay, right? And then Jimmy gives the super kick to
Sami,
to Sami, and so
Solo gave him a spike.
Yeah, and so they're beating the crap out of him, and then they're yelling at Jay to join in, and like Jay's in the corner, borderline crying. He does a great job of selling this part, right? And then he walks out.
Yeah,
he leaves.
Yeah. Which that is long-term storytelling right there.
Absolutely.
Because remember, even before the formation of the Bloodline, we had tension between Jay and Roman.
Yeah. So it's going back to that, and then Roman proceeds to beat the crap out of Sami with the chair 4 or 5 times.
Yeah.
And then gets one of the lays and sprinkles the flowers.
The flowers, yeah.
All over Sami. So you could say Sami got laid that night, but anyway.
It reminded me of the Field of Roses Kinkano Ray from the Dark Tower. But anyway, there's a literary reference for you.
Yeah. And so, that's how it ends, right? With them sort of, with Sami and
amazing visuals.
And I got to tell you, you know me, I'm a hardcore Leafs fan. So to get me to care about 2 people from Montreal and want to root for them, knowing that they're also Montreal Canadian fans, is very good storytelling on the part of and performances from the WWE writers and also Sami and Kevin themselves. So
they did a great job.
A compliment I can't give them.
I really think that it's going to be the 2 of them that end up with the tag belts.
That's okay. So that's where I'm going. So there's 2 possibilities here that I thought of. So obviously they're going with. By the way, before we get into this speculative territory, I give this main event and the storytelling being told a 5.
Okay, I'm going to give it a 4.5. I thought it was almost a 5, but not quite.
Okay, so that's out of the way. Now, so I had 2 schools of thought on this. You could either split the championships and have. This was before I saw Monday Night Raw and SmackDown, but my thought was you could split the championship again and have Sami contend for the SmackDown title, and then Cody go for the Raw. What is the Raw? The original WWE title, which is the Raw title.
Right. Yeah.
So how I would have played that was, and if they wanted to, they could still do that. And here's how. Last night on SmackDown, remember, Sami attacked Roman and demanded a championship match. And then,
did you notice this T-shirt? It said honorary Uce. Only there was, and this is part of the design. It looks like duct tape had been put over it, and it says Sami Zayn. So
yeah. I think that was very clever. But so Sami demanded a championship match. Then Roman beat him up in the corner a little bit and said, you broke my family, now I'm going to break you in front of your family in Montreal. Yeah. They could further that, if he comes up next week on Raw or SmackDown, he could say, you know what, I've been thinking about it. You're not deserving of a unified title. So I'm going to separate the titles again, and you're only going to challenge, you're only good enough for one title.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And so, hear me out now. If Roman is transitioning out to more of a part-timer, imagine you have him lose one of those titles in Montreal to the homegrown guy. He comes out, he's a little bit shaken by that loss, but when he does an interview, he's like, don't worry about it. Two is too much, I don't have time to be on both shows, blah, 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 blah. He's cocky about it. This belt is the original belt, and he could do a whole promo, and then ultimately lose. By the end of Mania, he loses both of them.
Sure.
Right? I think that would be a clever way to go about it. Even though I like that idea, I don't think that's the way they're going to go.
I would agree. I don't. Anyway, finish what you have to say, and then
what I think they're going to do is, I think, Sammy's going to lose at
Elimination Chamber? Yeah.
Right. But through the interference of Jimmy.
Mm-hmm.
Jimmy and Solo there, are going to cost him the win. And then at that point, you're going to see Kevin interject and save Sami. Mm-hmm. And then I don't know why I'm having trouble with their names today, but and then so at Mania you're going to see Sami and Kevin against the Usos.
The Usos, yeah.
And I think they're going to play up this fractured relationship between the two brothers up until Mania. And then, well, wouldn't it be amazing if it looks like, like let's say the ref is incapacitated and Solo jumps in the ring and Jimmy is there and and they're beating up, and then they wave. Let's say Jay is on the corner, and they wave him in to come in and beat up Sami and Kevin, but he drops off the apron and leaves.
Yeah,
and that's how basically he leaves his brother alone, and that's how Kevin and Sami get the win.
Yeah, I think we're going to see some version of that.
Yeah. So they'll begrudgingly team up next week and beat Strowman
and Ricochet. Yeah.
But you'll see the fracturing continue.
Yeah. This is what I want to say, though. I think the crowds would really love to see Sami beat Roman Reigns.
Yeah.
Here's my issue. Would the crowds still be into him holding the belt once he's done with the bloodline? When it's 6 months down the road and it's Sami Zayn versus The Miz or Sami Zayn versus Austin Theory, is he the guy that's going to put butts in seats? Is he the guy that's going to carry the company? I don't think WWE sees him that way. But I think he and Kevin Owens as tag champs, I think that works.
Oh, yeah, absolutely, 100%. Yeah.
So, so I'm hyped for Elimination Chamber as well as WrestleMania. I think there's a lot of possibilities there.
Yeah.
So, and I really want to see where they go with Jay. I think Jay's another guy who has a bright future as a singles wrestler if they do want to break up the Usos. And let me say this too. Maybe we should rate this match, and then I want to say one more thing.
We did.
We did already. Okay. Sometimes brothers have to fight, and it looks like there's going to be a lot of tension here, and they're going to fight. But I'm telling you right now, whether it's a year or 3 years or 5 years down the road, Sami Zayn's going to be in some kind of bad situation, and in his darkest hour, the Bloodline's going to rescue him. Someday, it's going to happen. We'll see the Bloodline reunite, and the crowds will love it.
Absolutely, I can see that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I can see that. Yeah. But this has been great storytelling. I mean, I haven't seen this good of a storyline on WWE TV in.
I think Michael Cole said it was like the best they've done in 10 years.
Oh, easily. Like, to me, the Bloodline, this whole saga, is up there with some of the classics.
Yeah.
Like, it's up there with the Savage and Flair. Or Savage and Hogan, the Mega Powers.
Mm-hmm. And a lot of people have made comparisons of the Bloodline to the Four Horsemen.
Yeah,
that's how much they're over.
Yeah, it's just like it's such good storytelling.
And the Inner Uzi promo is legendary. You can watch that over and over again, and it'll still make you laugh.
It's so funny. Especially when you know the context of what that means in Samoa.
Yeah. Something else we can't say here, but yeah.
Right, but yeah.
Is that what all this is about? You're not feeling Uzi?
Yeah. I think it was funny. They showed backstage on Raw 30. Hogan was talking with
Paul Heyman.
With Heyman. And he's like, enough of the Hulk committee. He goes, I want to be an honorary Studios. I want some moose juice. And I was, these are my best. Oh, I was on the floor. I couldn't stop laughing, but no. So, I mean, this has been fantastic storytelling. And just think about this. If it wasn't for Triple H's influence, Sami wouldn't have been put in this position. If it was according to Vince, if it was up to Vince, he'd be doing more of the Jackass kind of spots. Yeah. And Sami's recently said that in an interview, that Triple H really pushed for him to. Yeah.
I just think this is so much of a better showcase for Sami Zayn's talents than fighting a bunch of reality stars. You know?
Yeah, like putting him in a giant mousetrap and having him get caught. Now, look. As a lead fan, that happening to a Montreal fan, that makes me laugh. I think it's great. But he is a much better look. Aside from the fact that look, nobody can help where they're born or what hockey team they're born into, so I can't hold that against him too much. But he's proven like he's gotten me on board, and so he shows how good he is. Yeah. And so I got to give him props. Right. I didn't want to say giving him his flowers because he already got those. And, but it wasn't too pretty for him. So
yeah. The visuals were great though, you know, of Owens, you know, hanging off the ropes and Sammy's laid out and the flowers are all around the ring. It, you know, it's just had a very sense of finality there to the bloodline.
The two Rumbles and this match made the show.
Yeah.
I thought it was a very strong Rumble.
And it was a great setup going forward.
And sometimes you can predict the winners, and in that sense, it's predictable. But as long as how you get there is interesting and entertaining, that's all that really matters, really. Yeah. Right? So, solid show, and I'm even more hyped for Mania.
Yep.
For sure.
And Elimination Chamber, 2 weeks from today?
Yeah. So maybe. If all goes according to that, maybe we'll be back again with more wrestling in between now and then. We'll see.
Yeah.
But I think we're already ahead of our schedule in terms of how many wrestling shows we did last year. I think we're one ahead already, so we're in good shape. But if you want to talk more with us about what's what you think is going to happen at WrestleMania, you can do that on social media. Wise man, where do they find you on social media?
You can find me on Twitter and TikTok as the Emerald Enthusiast. Also, subscribe to my YouTube channel where I do lots of collectible reviews, including WWE and AEW figures.
And if you want to track me down on social media, you certainly can at Adam_LeesFan. On Twitter, the podcast network has its own handle, which is at MMNPDC. We have a Facebook group, which you can join by clicking the link below. I will add you, and we can continue the conversation there. But remember, the Royal Rumble is forever. From the first man or woman thrown over the top rope to the last. So long, everybody.
So long, everyone.